I was depressed for 5 years. My psychiatrist described it as the worst that he'd ever treated. I, had suicide attempts, hospital, shock therapy, the whole box and dice. And probably for 3 years of that, I felt really chronically suicidal. Like every day, I wanted to finish it, sort of thing. And I guess the message that I'd really like to get out there is that when you feel that way, it just seems like you will never ever get over it. You can't even remember the good times, even though I'd been depressed before and got over it before. I just figured because this one had gone on for so long that was just it. And you do start to think that your family would be better off without you. You'd just be a burden to them. They'll have to look after you for the rest of their lives. And, you start to think these stupid things. But they seem rational at the time. They seem very rational. It wasn't any miracle recovery. It was, starting the exercising and just looking at a weekly goal, just looking at that. Deciding to walk 30 minutes for 6 days a week. It was having contact with family and friends, getting support from them. It was over a period of, maybe 3 or 4 months, my mood went from probably a, 1 out of 10, where 0 is actively suicidal and 10 equals 100% normal. I went to maybe up to about 4. At that point, a friend of mine did a meditation course through a spiritual organisation called the Brahma Kumaris and recommended that I did too, so I did that, and I've been actively meditating twice a day since then, and that probably took me from a 4 out of 10 up to a 7 out of 10, and that was probably another 3 or 4 months. And then the final part of the recovery was really writing that book, Back from the Brink, where I had the opportunity to, I felt that I was doing it for 2 reasons. One was to let people know that they didn't feel alone and to give them hope that you can recover. You can't get better unless you admit that there's an issue and a problem. Hoping it will just go away. It could go away, but it will take a lot longer by itself. And reaching out is a very, very important part of that. One of the things about depression is that you tend to isolate and push people away, but the irony is you need people more than ever. For my first book, I did some research to find out how 350 people got over depression or managed their depression. And the most effective means, number 1, was exercise. But number 2 was the support of family and friends. After about 2 years of the 5-year episode, my wife decided that she, couldn't take it or support me any longer. So I had to move out of the family home, but quite frankly, I wasn't capable of looking after myself when I was in that state. I went to stay with my parents. My parents had me for about 18 months, and if it wasn't for their support, I don't think I would have made it. I really don't. So it came in front of psychological counselling or medication or any of the other things that are, automatically thought of. Number 3 is psychological counselling, and the ones that have been shown to be most effective for that is cognitive behaviour therapy, mindfulness-based therapy, interpersonal therapy, and acceptance commitment therapy. They're the sort of 4 that have been shown to be most effective for that. Number 4 in the group, funnily enough, is fulfilling work. People rated that in front of medication. Being in the right job is very important to our well-being, and a lot of people are in the wrong job. I worked in recruiting for 12 years, so I know that for a fact. Number 5 is relaxation and meditation. Number 6 is nutrition. And number 7 is medication. And I really, because depression is such a complex definition, a complex term, and it covers such a variety of conditions. Some will respond more quickly to one of those things versus the other, but I really advocate exploring all those 7 things to make progress in overcoming depression. In the workplace, there is still huge stigma and trauma and secrecy and denial, basically. It's a huge, most people say it's the biggest cause of productivity loss in the Western world, but no one wants to talk about it because they're too frightened that it could, negatively impact their career. There also is a genuine fear that other people could perceive it as being, something that incapacitates the person and makes them less effective in the workplace. There's a very, very strong incidence of carers also getting depression as well, not because it's catching, but because of the environment that happens in the place. It often won't necessarily be as bad as the other person, but there is certainly a carryover effect. I interviewed 350 people that were caring for someone with depression, experienced carers, and asked them what they knew now, which they wish they knew when they started this whole process. And the first thing was that they would learn a lot more about depression, the different types of depression, the different treatments of depression. That's the first thing, because if you don't know that, you don't know the map of how to get out of there, sort of thing. It's like, trying to go through a dark city without a map, sort of thing. So that's the first thing, is to know the lie of the land. The second thing was for them to realise that it's not their fault. Quite often, the person with depression might lash out and suggest that it is someone close to them's fault, but it isn't their fault. They really realise that. They also realise that they can't fix the person. They can help to create an environment which will be helpful to them, but they can't fix them. The person has to take responsibility for that. And I guess the final thing, and it's very, very important, is to take care of themselves, not to throw all the care at the person in distress at the expense of themselves. Because you can't sustain care if you don't take care of yourself. You just can't do it. It can be incredibly debilitating if you let it. But that's why I really stress the importance of taking action and exercise. You don't feel like it, but you can do it. One of the people that I interviewed in my first book was Sonia Rattard, and Sonia was, spent a whole day sitting on the couch, drinking coffee and smoking, and someone suggested to her that she should, maybe wash up the dishes or go for a walk. And she said, I just can't, I just haven't got any energy. And they just said, well, how do you drink coffee? And she said, I go over, I fill up a jug, I hold it, I do that. How do you smoke? Well, I lift it up. And they said, well, so you can move your muscles, you can do it. So, eventually she got the courage from that to make herself do the dishes, and then eventually make herself walk. And then you have to go against your feelings when you're in that situation. You're just 100% convinced that you can't get better, that things won't improve. But you just have to listen to the words of other people that have been there before and realise that you can do it, and that not only can you do it, but you can fully overcome things. I try to let people know that you can come out better and stronger and a different person with different priorities and a more happier person. But you have to hang in there and you have to take action.